and see myself.
Hey everyone, it's Chris. Today I'm gonna be shooting a video. That's obviously what I'm doing. But I haven't been able to figure out the lighting very well. I only have like a few limited places that has good lighting in my house. So I decided to try and get dressed up today. I even put lipstick on, and then after I put lipstick on I realized I wear braces and I'm probably gonna get lipstick all over my braces. So if that happens during this video, please ignore it and continue watching. Thank you. So recently I had a very interesting experience. At one point in my life, I thought that it would be a great idea to become a teacher for little children, for preschool. And actually it was a really big desire of mine to become a preschool teacher. But recently I had an interview for a preschool teaching position and I realized that was not my career path. The position itself sounded pretty freaking awesome. Let me just kind of fill you in about what this position was. Obviously, I'm not going to say the name of the company. Basically what this position was, it was a position for a preschool teacher that was completely in Spanish. What they do is they bring children into this preschool, and the teacher, as soon as the children come into the school, only Spanish is spoken. And this is kind of like an immersion program so that the children only get used to hearing Spanish, and eventually after like certain techniques and things, they start picking up some Spanish. And it's a great way to learn really young, really easy, without having to like do worksheets and Rosetta Stone. I think it's a really good program. So what I would have been doing, which I'm not, because that's so kawaii, what I would have been doing is I would have been speaking only in Spanish to these children so that they could learn Spanish. Now, let me just say that this was not a bad interview experience because of the interviewer person or because of the company. Like, this was all me. If something is my fault, I will admit that it's my fault. And this was definitely my fault. They had two interviews. The first interview, I went in, I, was looking all nice. I had my pretty high heels on, simple outfit, whatever, skirt, blouse. I kind of had a little bit of trouble trying to find the building, and I like to be there about 10 minutes before I'm supposed to be there. Like, if I'm supposed to be there at 3, I want to be there at 2:50. But because I had such trouble finding this building, because it was like in the basement of another building, I got there at like 2:58 when I was supposed to be there at 3 or something. I got there, the guy was pretty much just telling me all about the position. He was telling me about the company, and eventually he would like kind of ask me some questions about myself, but not too in detail and not too in depth. So I'm pretty sure like anyone could have gotten through that first interview because you don't really know what the person is like or around children. So I'm pretty sure that's why I proceeded to the next interview. Otherwise, unless I was a complete nutcase, then they wouldn't have let me on to the second interview. But obviously I wasn't going to be like crazy. So the second interview was actually at his house. And now I know what you're all thinking, that sounds a little bit creepy. But the preschool was at his house. Children were there and the teacher was there. And this is the teacher that I would have been taking the position for, I think. So I showed up and I was like sweating. It was really hot that day. He sat me down and he told me that he was gonna put me through some exercises to see if I was the right fit for the position. And the exercises that he made me do was, he didn't make me do anything. The first exercise he had me do was take a piece of paper and cut a circle out of it and explain to him in Spanish what I was doing. But I wasn't supposed to be like, well, first we take the scissors and then we cut the paper and we turn it in a circle and we're done. So he had me be like, oh, here are the scissors and the scissors are sharp and you're putting them against the paper. Look at this paper, it's green. What else is green? Grass is green. This is green like grass. Put more and more vocabulary in there instead of just being like, circle, done. Okay, so he had me do that, and I don't know why I'm fluent in Spanish, but this particular day, out of all the days that I've ever spoken Spanish, I tensed up and I was like, what is scissors in Spanish? Like, when you're so nervous that you just forget things? I do it all the time in English. Now in Spanish, I like completely forgot what scissors were, I completely forgot what paper was. And luckily he didn't know Spanish, which I thought was kind of weird since he ran a Spanish preschool. So he didn't know what I was saying. So I kind of got away with that a little bit, although I was a little bit nervous, my voice was shaking. I was like, yeah, so here's the paper. Ooh, these scissors are sharp. Make sure you don't cut yourself. It was really awkward at that point. But But eventually I got through it, and he was like laughing, and he was like, oh, that was cute, and I was like, right? We were in the kitchen at this time, and the children came into the kitchen to make some sort of snack or whatever. We had to like leave because we didn't want them to hear us talking in English, because that would have just thrown off the vibes that the teacher was trying to do. We went outside, and he brought 2 chairs outside. We went outside, we sat down. I was in a dress, and girl, it started sweating really, really badly. The sun was just angry that day. The sun was just like, I'm gonna kill you. So it was like, ugh. I was sweating profusely out of every pore of my body. I don't wear makeup very often, but except for my videos and like job interviews. The very few times that I wear makeup outside, it like melts off of my face because it's so hot. I live in a desert land here. He tells me that the next thing I needed to do was make a lesson plan for him on the spot right there, because that was one of the things that a lot of teachers had trouble with, was making a lesson plan. He goes inside to cool off, but I'm still outside sweating in the freaking sun. He comes out and he's reading these tasks, and he's asking me to explain each and every one of them, and he's like, what is this? And I'm like, oh, this is what this is, and all this stuff. And he was like, oh, that's good, that's good. So I think I did good on that part. But then he decides that he would have me actually, for my last exercise, to interact with the children. At first I was like, this is awesome, like I'm gonna be able to like talk to them and it's gonna be great. And he was like, no, you're gonna be reading this children's book. And I was like, perfect. And he's like, but the catch is, you cannot say what's on the page. And I had to like say the story that came off the top of my head in Spanish to these children that do not know any Spanish. And I'm supposed to try to get them to interact with me without reading what's on the page. I'm supposed to describe what the pictures are doing. So like, ooh, here are 3 bears. This is 1 bear, 2 bear, 3 bears. What are bears? Bear has a nose. Do you have a nose? I have a nose. And then like try to interact with them that way. I was really, really nervous, and he like kicked the other teacher out, and the kids were like, what's going on? And he was like, hey, go ahead and start. So I'm going through this book, Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. Is that what the storybook is? Yeah. And I was like, look, the bear is snoring. Do you snore? And then I made like this really weird like, and like the children were just not understanding, obviously, because they don't know Spanish. And it was just really awkward. They were all staring at me like, like the other teachers were watching me, he was watching me, and nobody was interacting with me. It was like super deadly, pin-droppingly quiet. And eventually I just started getting so nervous that I just started flipping through this book like, okay, I'm done, you know, and I'm just like, okay, I'm done. And I looked at him and he was like, oh, already? I was like, yeah. And he let me go. And he was like, well, thank you. We'll get back to you probably next week if you got the job. And we'll see you, we'll see if we see you. Like, yeah, like sprinted out of there in my high heels, and I drove away, and I went straight home, and I started crying. It probably didn't sound that bad to you guys, but like in the moment it was just so terrible because I felt so awkward. I have social anxiety. I don't know why I thought I could talk in Spanish to kids. It was not a thing, okay? It was not a thing that day, okay? Okay. That was the pointless story. There was really no actual point to it. Yeah, it wasn't the person's fault at all. It wasn't the company's fault at all. It was something that I thought I could do. I tried out a little bit doing, and I sucked at it. So they never called me back, and that's okay because I don't think I actually wanted to work there anymore after having been through that awkward experience. I mean, I feel like there are some people out there that are just really, really good with kids. And then there are people like me who think that they are good with kids, who could be perfectly good with their own kids, but when it comes to other people's kids. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that story, or at least kind of liked it. Hope it kind of made you chuckle, hope it kind of made you cringe. It was probably kind of a cringy video. I don't really know. Make sure you subscribe and like my video. It would mean a lot to me, and I love to know that people are watching me because, girl, I am completely irrelevant on the internet right now. Thank you all so much, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye! What kind of exit was that?